Okay. Hi, Brittany. Thank you so much for doing this for us. I'm so excited to hear from you because I just know that you have so much to share with us. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself and start by just sharing your story and a little bit about how you found it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited about tonight. So my name is Brittany Hayes, and I'm a presidential diamond, and I have been with FitWorks for 2.5 years. I joined after watching my enroller on social media for a while, and I just couldn't shake the feeling that maybe God was putting her post in front of me for a reason. And so finally, after 11 months of watching, I had never reached out to her about the business, never once expressed interest. I liked all her posts, but that was it. I literally never told her I was watching her. I just reached out of the blue one night. I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I had 4 kids at the time. I've got 5 kids now. My husband was working 2 jobs, so I could stay home with our 4 kids. And I just was so sick of our life just being literally the epitome of paycheck to paycheck and drowning in debt. And so I literally looked at my husband one night and I was like, I think I'm gonna text her and join her team. And he was like, do it. He was like, I know that you can do it. So I just reached out to her completely to faith. I literally think I said something along the lines of, I'll have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm a hard worker and I'm willing to learn. And that literally, like, the rest was history. Like, that's been the epitome of like my time in the business, is just knowing like, okay, if she can do it, so can I. Like, if I'm willing to work, like, I can always make it happen. And so, flash forward in 7 months, I was earning more with It Works than my husband was at his 2 jobs. And so we retired him and brought him home. We've been a full-time family ever since. By 10 months into the business, we started finally earning a 6-figure income. And then by our 1-year anniversary, we earned over $130,000 in bonuses, went triple diamond, literally paid off over $50,000 of debt. We're able to move to the beach. It just literally changed everything for us. And then this past November, we went presidential diamond, earned another $40,000 in bonuses. We're going for ambassador this month. And yeah, it's just absolutely changed everything for our life. It took us from being just a family who was just struggling and could barely say yes to taking our kids out for ice cream to literally being able to give our kids, anything that they could ever want and more. Oh, you're muted, Cheyenne.
It was crazy when I met you at conference and your husband was just carrying around your baby. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this your first? And you're like, no, I have 4. Or do you have 5? How many kids do you have? Yeah. All the cutest kids. So we are just excited to hear your tips. I know a lot of us are promoting. A lot of us come from different lifestyles. A lot of my team is super young. So I know that you have a lot of knowledge to spill. So did you want to just like go for it, or do you want me to kind of ask you questions throughout it, or did you write stuff down?
Either way is fine. I know a little bit about what we were talking about, so I can start. And if you want to stop me and ask
Take the
questions,
mic and go, and I'll stop you if I have some questions.
yeah. So one of the big things that I just think is so important to remember in this season is just, staying in your lane and being the best version of you. It can get really easy in this business to look at, all these other amazing leaders and like, let's get real, they're amazing. There's so many amazing people in this business. I don't think I've ever been as inspired as I've been in this last 2.5 years in my entire life. And so it can be really easy to see all these incredible people and be like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Like, I wonder what I need to do. Like, I wonder if I should be, finding this out and adding this to my 6 list or whatever. But like, one thing that I have learned is that it's so important to do what you do well and do it over and over and over again, and not to get too distracted by always trying to figure out like what the latest and greatest is. And that's not to say that we don't always want to be learning, because we do. I learn something new literally every single day. And I can be on a Zoom, with another top leader and hear something that I still 2.5 years in the business have never heard before. So it's always important to be learning, but it's also important to like kind of draw that line of like not getting distracted either, like trying to figure out like what is everybody doing. Because at the end of the day, like, you're paid to sign customers and you're paid to sign distributors. And if you have ever signed one customer before, one distributor, which all of you on here have, I know, then you can go do it over and over and over again. And so that is my like first thing I want to say going to promotion season, because it gets crazy. You start seeing promotions happen, left and right, and it's so exciting. But don't get caught up like, looking left and right and seeing maybe people go faster than you and like wondering what you're doing wrong. At the end of the day, I always ask myself, like, was I the best version of me today? And I'm going to share this. I actually didn't know if I was going to share this, but I feel compelled to, so I'm going to go ahead and just go for it. But I went presidential in November. And several of my like really close friends in the business, some of my accountability partners, actually went pres in September and October. And I remember thinking like, what the heck? Like, why did they go pres before me? Like, what is wrong with me? And then, I quickly snapped myself out of it. And I was reminded that, I was doing great, had made great progress with my team. Like, we had done great things. And like, November was our month. And I committed in November. I woke up beginning of November, sorry, I can't talk. And just knew that was our month. And I literally said to the Lord, all right, I'll do whatever I have to do. Please swoop in and bless my efforts like never before. But what I want to say is that it can get really easy to see someone go a little bit faster than you and to let it get in your own head. But it's super important, like when you feel those emotions, to snap yourself out of it and remember, like, if you are doing your best, like that is what matters. And you can always amp up what you're doing if you're feeling convicted. And that's the beauty of this business, is like you are your own boss and you can quickly pull yourself in check at any time. But if you are doing everything you need to do, like, don't get caught up in that comparison trap. And then kind of along those lines, I wanted to say something. So I wanted to just kind of transition into like making sure, like, as a leader, like we always remember that we have more eyes on us than we could ever imagine. And not just our team, there's other people that you inspire in this business who are watching your page every day, just super inspired. You keep them going. It never ceases to amaze me, like at conference, I know Cheyenne can totally back this up. Like, you'll have someone come up to you who you have no idea who they are, and they're like, I didn't quit because of you. Like, I was feeling so down and I saw, something you posted, or I saw a Zoom that you did, and like, you reminded me to keep going. You reminded me to, remember my why, remember why I started. And so you in this business, whether you realize it or not, you have a lot of people watching you. And so it's super important to remember that leaders always lead from the front. They always lead by example. And of course, that's something we hear all the time, but like, what does that really mean? Like, what does that actually mean? What that means is you can't ask your team to do something that you're not doing, and you can't get on a Zoom and preach something that you're not doing. And so above all, you have to make sure you're getting like what you need to get done to build your business first. And I know, especially like as your team continues to grow, like you're going to have so many questions, you're going to have like so many more responsibilities, but at the end of the day, keeping that ratio in check. Erin Tweed, she's an ambassador diamond. I'm sure most of you guys know who she is. Number 7 income earner. She did a Zoom for my team last week, and she said something that I thought was so good. She said 80% of your time should be spent on building your business, and only 20% should be answering questions. And she was like, at the end of the day, like, you can never lead your team to do something you're not doing. So she was like, if you're not posting, like, you can't expect them to post. And so that is like the number one thing that I want to speak to, since I know that everyone on here, everyone on here are leaders, is that, if you want your team to, perform up here, like, you've got to be performing up here. And, you've got to be setting the bar high and setting an example, and remembering that, like, they're going to follow your lead. They're watching even if you don't realize you're watching. So if you've got newbies, they can't learn to post 5 or 6 times a day if you're not posting that many times a day. And I know for me, like, that is what really keeps me in check on those days when my kids are being crazy and, everything that could possibly happen is happening. I'm reminded people are watching me. Like, I have an example to set, and like, to whom much is given, much more shall be required. The Lord has blessed me with all this, and He's given me this platform of influence, and it's up to me to be a good steward with it. It's up to me to, like, still, lead from the front every day, even when I don't feel like it. And so I wanted to share with you guys something TD Jakes said on the sermon that I was listening to from him today. He said, you always have to be willing to stop and have the courage to examine your own truth. And he went on to say that what that means is, it can be really easy to say things like, I'm doing everything I should be. Like, I'm doing everything I can. But it takes courage to stop and say, but am I really? Like, am I really doing everything I can? And if there's anything I can just like transfer over to you guys that I've learned in these, past 2.5 years in the business, is that don't be afraid. Like, if you're not having the results you want, to get really real with yourself and really honest with yourself, and ask yourself, like, am I truly doing what I say I'm doing? Am I truly doing, all that I can be doing? Because it's really easy to get on a coaching call with Cheyenne, your leader, and to be like, I'm doing everything. I don't know why I'm not signing. But at the end of the day, like, no one sees you behind closed doors except you. And so don't, like, have the courage to get real with yourself. Have the courage to say, maybe I'm not, maybe there is something holding me back that I need to confront right now. Because the quicker you confront it, the quicker you can move on, and you can be the best version of yourself. And so kind of like going from there, as a leader, like, you shouldn't have to have anyone coming up behind you saying like, hey, did you post 6 times today? Or did you post 3 times a day? Whatever your goal is. I know we all have different, things that we hit. For me, I like to post between 3 and 6 times a day. Did you do your messaging today? Did you do your follow-ups? Like, that's something that, as a leader, no one should have to come and ask you. And you wouldn't want anybody to ask you that. You are in this business for yourself. But holding ourselves accountable is just so important. And so I just kind of wanted to share that insight from TD Jakes, because I never had really thought of it like that, but I just thought that was just so profound. Like, have the courage to get really real with yourself. Cheyenne, do you want to stop me? I feel like I'm maybe like rambling on too fast.
You're doing so good. I love that too, because I feel like a lot of times, even now, like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm present, doing everything right, and then you can still sit there and look back and you're just like, I didn't do everything I should do. And I know that that's really hard to have that conversation with yourself, but I love that you just added that too.
Yeah. And I think it's really freeing. Like, I think like the days when I'm like, you know what, like I could have done a little bit more. Like, if anything, I go to bed pumped up for tomorrow, because I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to drop that same ball twice. One thing that the audiobook that I was listening to a few days ago said, it's called The Millionaire Mindset. Pam Sauter actually recommended it. He said in that book, your commitment to whatever it is you want to achieve has to be stronger than your day-to-day moods. And I like immediately wrote it down when he said that, because I thought that was just so huge. Like, our moods are definitely going to fluctuate, but like when you have like this strong, unwavering commitment to your goals, maybe it's going triple diamond this month, maybe it's going diamond. Like, you're going to hold true to that no matter how you feel, no matter if your baby's teething, no matter if, you're in college and you have exams, no matter what is going on, you're going to hold true to that because it's important to you to do it. And he went on to say that your quality of life will always be determined by your commitment to excellence. So if you're committed to being your best, like, the quality of your life is going to show that. And so I think that's just something that is just such a huge reminder and like an easy way to keep ourselves accountable. Like, I know what I want. So like, no matter what happens today, I'm going to keep going, because that's too important to me to sacrifice because of one bad day. The other thing that I wanted to, touch on was, how to talk to your team when people are different than you. As a leader, it can be, really challenging, like talking to people in the way that they really need you to talk to them, because let's get real, we all have our natural disposition. And so that's the way you want to talk to people. I'm a very red personality. I'm high functioning red, and I have a little bit of green. Through self-development, I've learned to like push my green aside, and I only pull it out for like really relevant times, like understanding the comp plan and stuff like that. But I've learned in this business that, when I'm talking to someone who's super yellow on my team, like, I've got to talk to them the way that they need me to talk to them. And so, maybe you're on here and that's you're super red. One thing that I'll tell you is that, cultivating just that strong team culture, comes down to like, are you willing to, be the leader your team needs you to be? Not just who feels like what it feels good to you to be and like what feels natural to you, but being the leader that your team needs. And so sometimes that may mean like shifting a little bit, each conversation, depending on who you're talking to. Whenever I get on a coaching call with someone, I always take note of like, okay, they are definitely very yellow. They're definitely more blue. They're definitely more green. They're red like me. I can be super direct, because that's going to make the call just go so much better. And it's going to make me so much more effective. And so that's something that definitely I've had to learn the hard way through this business is, just keeping that in mind. And the one thing I wanted to hit on too, and you don't hear a lot of people say this, but it is so true. No matter what color you are, through self-development, you can change your color personality a whole different direction. And so what I mean by that is, you may think you're the reddest girl on the block, but through self-development, you can bring that yellow out, and you can bring a yellow side of you that you didn't even know existed. And same thing if you're yellow, like you can, through self-development, bring that more direct side, bring that side that needs to be more assertive, and have those tougher conversations that maybe don't feel natural to you. And same thing for green. You can, if you're really green, you can, through self-development, like train yourself, like, okay, I need to not overthink. I need to not overanalyze. I need to like put this away, pull it out when it's really necessary. But other than that, I need to like be more of a rainbow and be these colors. And then lastly, I'm going to say this about blue because my husband's blue, but if you're really blue, like doing a lot of self-development to teach yourself that self-discipline and, in just holding yourself like to a super tightrope standard. Because obviously if you're more blue, and I feel like I can say this even though I have no blue, because like I said, I'm married to hardcore blue. Like, you want to have fun and you're just here for the party. My husband literally, like at any team event, he's making everybody laugh. Like, he's so much more fun than me. But like, he knows like that he has to like be a lot tougher on himself than maybe I do. Like, I'm naturally super self-disciplined, but he knows like he's not. So if he wants to be, he has to be really intentional about it. And so if you're on here and you're blue, like, no, like, it's not just who you are. Like, through self-development, you can mold yourself into that person that you really want to grow into. Hopefully that makes sense.
So if
I
you
feel like
have somebody on your team, like I guess we can start like a new distributor, how do you address it if, you know, they're not working, or maybe they're not working as hard as they should be, or you notice they're not enrolling anymore? I know you're kind of big on voice messages, so I assume that you kind of send them that personal thing, but how do you like start that?
Yeah, so I definitely try to like take note of like who I'm talking to, like what their personality is. If it's someone I can be more blunt with, or if it's someone that I need to kind of, you know, be a little bit more choosy with my wording. But I will always voice message. I think that when you voice message someone, you can stay above reproach, because a text message can just be misinterpreted in 1,000 different ways. And so I will always, you know, voice message and just make sure that I'm presenting the truth and love. I will say that if someone, I'm a little bit more hands off if I sign a new distributor and they just ghost me and I'm following up and they're just like not answering. I will never beg you to work, because the time I spend begging you to work, I could have gone and signed 5 people who want to run with me. And so I'm not going to like feel drained and like exert all that energy begging you to work when you clearly don't want it. And what I have found is that the best thing I can do is lead you by example. And so you maybe aren't ready to run with me now, but you're going to keep seeing me and the rest of the team bust it out. You're going to keep seeing us make waves, and like eventually something's going to happen. You're going to not have any money for rent in 2 months, and you're going to be like, crap, I really should probably finally answer Brittani. And so that's kind of my approach with that. But what I will say is, if a new DT has not ever started and then they say to me, oh, I'm sorry, like it's just so hard, like I just maybe that, like I don't know if this is working for me, those conversations I will be very red. I'll always speak the truth in love, but so direct. I won't dance around that. I've seen so many people snap out of it and start working because I just ripped the Band-Aid off. My husband is probably on here because I shared this Zoom link with my leaders, but and he's in our leadership chat, so he's probably watching this. But he'll laugh and like back this up. He's heard me say this so many times. Like when someone says like, oh, I'm sorry, something isn't working for me, I don't think I'm very good at it, I will literally say, girl, I don't know how you could say it's not working for you. You haven't even started working. And I say it just like that, like I'm not being mean, but I say it like that because a light bulb will go off and they're like, she's right. I haven't even like posted, I haven't done anything. So I guess I can't really say that. So, I mean, I definitely think it's important no matter what personality you're talking to. Sometimes you just have to speak the truth. Just make sure you're being nice about it and that they can hear your heart in the message. My people know whenever I say something like that, I have their best interest at heart and I genuinely want them to succeed. And so don't be afraid to have those hard conversations.
Is your husband Stud Muffin on here, or is that somebody else?
If you see a Stud Muffin on the Zoom, it is definitely him.
My whole chat has been blowing up. They're like, can someone tell me who Stud Muffin is? And now
oh my gosh. I haven't even looked at the chat. That's so funny. Yeah, no, he's Stud Muffin.
That's hilarious. He's obviously blue.
He is. See?
Dead.
Sorry, I don't remember what I was supposed to be talking about, Cheyenne.
Nope, you're good. You're good. I don't remember what you were just saying either, but you can carry on if you have more.
Yeah, basically just if you have a new distributor, my rule of thumb is don't get too stressed out. Don't get too flustered. The energy you will spend getting flustered and trying to beg someone to come run with you, like you literally could have found your next runner. And not to mention, even if you don't sign your next runner right away, like that is precious energy you cannot afford to lose right now. Like that energy could be spent busting it out, enrolling customers, making it happen, just being the best version of you. And so I know it can be so, if you're like me, like I see so much potential in everyone. And I genuinely am sad for you. Like if you join and you just never get started, you know, it makes me sad because you told me when you got started that you could barely pay your bills, that, you know, you were late on rent every month. Like I remember all those things. And so it's definitely tough for me because I know you've got a golden opportunity, but at the end of the day, like you have to know, like you just can't want it for someone any more than they want it for themselves. And so that's kind of what I just always have to go back to. In the beginning of my business, like probably around the time of like Diamond and Double, I wasted a lot of time trying to just beg people to work and forcing promotions that like weren't, like I should have never forced, like forcing someone to go Ruby and just like placing under them and building them. And meanwhile, they're not even posting or doing anything. But I'm like, oh, maybe once they go Ruby, they will. And it took them going Ruby and still not doing anything for me to be like, okay, they really aren't going to work. So if there's anything that like I can tell you that I had to learn the hard way, it's that run with who wants it. Even if that's 2 people on your team, like run with them, because you'll find that in 2 months from now, the 3 of you will have accomplished way more than you ever thought possible when you just like let go of the dead weight. And you'll find that a lot of that dead weight, like they raise up from the dead. Like when you're least expecting it. I've had people that have literally like haven't done anything for 6 months, come back and been like, okay, I'm ready to work now. Like I'm finally serious. And then they're like all in and they're hustling, but it has to be the right time for them. And so just being aware of that, I think is just so huge.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing to that too. I can't remember who said it. I was on a Zoom with someone and they were just talking about how you kind of have to break through that business wall when you join, like when you enroll a new distributor, because they're looking at you like you're some like CEO of a company and they don't know that personal connection. So that's why in our new distributor training, we have a part where at the very beginning we ask them what their why is. So I feel like that can kind of tie into, sending that voice message and saying, look, you told me that you can't even pay your bills right now. And I don't know if y'all have ever like bought a car or anything that you've been talking to someone a lot and they remember, they're like, oh yeah, like how's your grandpa doing? Like when you mention something, you're making that personal connection to where they know that you're not looking at them of like, oh, I want money. Like I need you to work because I want money. They look at it like you genuinely care about them and them being successful. And I think that when I made that change and started asking their why and bringing up like, well, you told me you couldn't afford diapers for your kid. They're like, oh yeah, you're right. I don't want to do that anymore. Like I need to change it. So I think that's a really cool thing to do too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just kind of goes back to like, no matter if you're the yellowest person on the Zoom, like don't be afraid to have those tough conversations, because I've never once like been really real with someone and it backfired on me, because they can hear my heart in that voice message. They know that I'm not trying to be mean. They know that I genuinely like, I want to help them, and that's going to come across. And even if they don't start working right away, like there's never any harm that can come from, like Cheyenne said, you just reminding them of like what they told you. If anything, they're going to snap out of it and start running with you. And worst case scenario, they sit and stew on it for a while. So the last thing that I think I really wanted to hit on was just like obviously everyone on here is running for huge promotions, just, running for all the volume and just attracting as many customers to you as possible. So one thing that I love to do just to like keep a steady stream of customers in is and again, if this is like kind of like contradictory to like other advice you've gotten, just like take it with a grain of salt and do what works for you. But instead of posting about like all the products that we have, I really like to keep it to just a few products, like just a few things that I'm super passionate about, and I hit it hard. And so like for me, it's coffee and greens, or like coffee greens and Thermify, sometimes the cleanse, but I will just literally hit on those over and over and over and over again. And so every day I'm going to be putting, result pictures up. Every day I'm going to be, posting my own coffee and greens. And that just keeps people, as I'm consistently growing my network every day, there's just always this wave of people that's coming in interested in coffee and greens, because I'm so fiercely consistent about it. And it's not all over the place where like people really don't even know what all I have, because I'm posting about 12 things a day. It's so concentrated that like the messages I get are literally like, hey, what is this fat burning coffee you keep posting about? And so for you, maybe it isn't the coffee, maybe it's something else. But I think finding those few things that you're really passionate about and hitting them so hard is just so huge. And then knowing that other additional product that you can throw in every now and then to mix it up. For me, it's hair, skin, and nails. Like I love throwing in hair, skin, and nails just whenever I need like a fresh post, because it'll always blow up with like, people interested in growing their hair out. That's the number one thing I wanted to say is like get a lot of pictures ready and just like hit those things that you're passionate about hard, and be so consistent with it. And I'm really big about like, I like to delete my before and afters 24 hours later, so I can be throwing them up every single day, but my page like stays clean. It doesn't stay like cluttered. So as I am growing my network, people aren't just going to see all this stuff. And then also just being so consistent during boom season of like writing every single body's name down. I know that this can be like, this sounds redundant to a lot of you, but during this season, if you don't write everyone down, like you will absolutely lose track of people. I just recently went digital, so I have everyone in my iPad Pro. But before then, I just wrote everyone down in like a big notebook. But seriously, like you might think like, oh, it's not that hard. I talked to them today. I'm going to check in with them tomorrow, but you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. When your messenger blows up, it's going to be that much, like they're just going to keep going further and further down and fall through the cracks. So that's my second tip. And then my third tip with signing customers is just don't be afraid to just literally relentlessly follow up with them, because people get busy. And so don't think like, oh, well, I checked in on Friday and they weren't interested. Like follow up, because this is the season when people get tax returns. This is the season when, people are, literally just more focused than ever on their health goals. And so you just don't know when someone who's been ghosting you for weeks and weeks and weeks is finally just going to be like, yeah, I'm ready. I just signed a customer yesterday who I literally had followed up with for 6 months. And she messaged me unsolicitedly and said, hey, I'm so sorry for ignoring you. But I'm finally ready to get my coffee and greens ordered. And so again, that's just like another testament to being so consistent, because even though she's ghosted me, she's seen me posting about it every single day, and it's just fresh on her mind.
Yeah, and so I know she was actually on stage with me. If y'all don't remember, if y'all were at conference, we were on stage about lives. So I know that you are really big about going live pretty much like about the business or about the products and like dropping hints about things. So can you kind of go over like how you do that a little bit more, so that for people that are promoting, they obviously go live a lot more that month?
Yeah, for sure. So I like going live about like just anything that pops in my mind that I feel like I can develop it into business. And so sometimes it might be like a blatant business live. Like I went live 2 Sundays ago and I titled it, I think I said, "It's all one big scam." And I had literally just had a couple potentials fall through the cracks that day that had said, "I'm sorry, after a lot of research and reviews, I think this is a scam." And so I was like, you know what? This is a great live topic. I'm just going to get live. I'm just going to go live and talk about this. And you guys, it was like one of my best lives ever. It got like 4,000 views and like, I think like 72 shares or something crazy. Like everyone was sharing it and like going crazy, even people that were in other network marketing companies, because I just like completely unfiltered, just like shared so much truth. And so like, I won't like obviously say everything I said in that video, but like for that video, I was just really real about like, you can't read reviews. Like reading reviews is not going to give you an accurate representation, because you're just reading like what one negative person had to say. And so even if it's not a blatant live that's like about business, I'll always like bring up the business, and I might say something like that. Like my husband and I did a live in December, and we were talking about just like how much of a blessing this business had been for us. And my husband actually said something in there. He was like, and he's like, for all you husbands out there that are like sitting back skeptical, he's like, why would you, like, the proof is in the pudding, like money talks. Like, why would you hold your wife back from doing something that she could potentially make a lot of money for your family? And what's crazy is we had people reach out to us after that were like, okay, my husband's been so skeptical, watching you all this time, I made him watch your live. So like, these are like really like quick examples. I know, like, hopefully you guys are like hanging on to some of this. I know I'm talking fast, but basically, like, don't be afraid to drop like just a truth bomb in your life, because you just don't know who's going to be watching it and is going to hear that. And that's exactly what they need to hear to finally be like, okay. And I know I'm jumping all over the place, but kind of like back to that scam one about that. I had someone that joined right after that said, okay, you got me. Like, I've been thinking it's such a scam. I've been reading these negative reviews, but I never thought about it like the way that you said it, that I have to keep these reviews in context. I'm finally ready to give it a try. So like, whatever's on your heart, the best advice I can give is like, just don't be afraid to get on there and be really real, because it will always serve you well. It's not ever going to hurt you. You just don't know like that one thing is going to be just what somebody needs to hear to finally like get over their fear and go for it. And along those lines, I'm really big during this season of doing just specific business lives. I know a lot of people say things like, oh, like I kind of want to do a live about something else and then just like slide the business there. And I do that too. And I think that's great. But I think sometimes just getting on there, and that is the whole focus of your live, is really good too. Because if you're sharing juicy stuff and you're excited and you're talking about things that are kind of confrontational, like people saying it's a scam and stuff like that, you're going to have people hanging on to watch it. Like, people are nosy. They want to hear like what you're talking about. So I know that's something not a lot of people say. A lot of people are try to be more vague. But I do think sometimes it's good to go the other direction too.
That's very true. I had someone just ask me what your daily like task list looks like how, I know your schedules aren't going to be the same, but what is it that you have to do every single day?
Yeah, so my things that I do every single day, I actually have like a graphic, and I can send it to you, Cheyenne, if you want to share it with anybody that would be helpful for them. But I keep this graphic saved on my phone, and I send it to like any newbies when they join as well too. Let me pull it up. Well, I don't know where my folder went.
If not, you can send it to me after if you can't find it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I found it. Let me see if I can it's just like a colorful graphic. You guys probably can't even see it because it's so bright. But basically, it's just something like this, and you guys could make your own too and like have it for your newbies. But this has been really helpful for me to like duplicate what I'm doing down really easily. But mine just says post 3 to 6 times a day, post to your story, follow up with everyone you talked to yesterday, interact with your network for at least 15 minutes, add 10 to 15 friends on Facebook, follow 100 people on Instagram, and then self-development is written really big at the bottom. So super basic things. And I like to refer to these things as like, if like this isn't a job where anybody can fire you, but if this was a job where you could get fired for not doing your basic things, like these would be your things. Like these are the things that If you clocked in and you didn't do these things every day, like you would get fired for it, because you can't run your business without these things, in my opinion. And so that's been really great for like, not even just like keeping myself on check with them, but like making sure it's super simple to teach newbies how to do that too. It's just having it right there on a pretty graphic. They can save it right to their phone. And those are the things that like for me are just completely non-negotiable. So I view these things literally the way I view brushing my teeth. So like it literally doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. and I'm like following people on Instagram because I didn't do it. Like I won't go to bed without doing it, because I know in my head, like I can't run a lucrative business if I'm not getting in front of more people every single day. And so that's how I feel about those things. It's just like, whatever your 6 list is, like you have to treat it like your hygiene, because that is what you have to do to stay in business.
That's so good too. If any of y'all have questions, you can text me again, because I know people ask me questions and they're so lost in my messages now because I didn't write them down. Guilty. I'm not sure. I don't think there's any more questions. Do any of y'all have any questions? If you want to unmute yourself, or if you want to post it in the chat about anything. Brittany's got all the cool tips, all the things to say. Don't all speak at once. Distributor steps, like her training.
So like whenever I sign a distributor, I basically just tag them in like a welcome training video that we have, and then I tag them in a first post example, and I don't tag them in anything else until they actually do those things, because in my mind, like everything else I'm gonna tag you in is irrelevant if you haven't done those 2 things. And then I send them a message letting them know to let me know once they have watched that training and like come to me with their questions. And so I put the ball in their court, which is really crucial for months when you're mass enrolling and you're enrolling a lot. I usually enroll about 15 distributors a month, but I mean, I have months where I'm enrolling more like 30 or 40. And so it's super important that I put the ball in their court and I say, okay, I'm tagging you these 2 things. Message me before you make your first post. I'll proofread it. I'll make sure it's good. I'll help you make any necessary tweaks, and then message me your questions from the welcome training. That puts the ball in their court and then allows me to, again, kind of going back to what we were talking about before, like not chase people down who aren't ready to jump in. And then once they've done those things, I start tagging them in like some more things. But I'm definitely really big, like my husband and I have said from day one, we run with the runners, we walk with the walkers. And we feel really strongly about that. So I will never go like blow someone up and like force them to start running when they clearly don't want to run. I think that's one of the quickest ways to scare someone off. I want them to know, like, I've got your back, but this is going to be 100% at your own pace. And what I find a lot is by respecting that initial whatever, those first early days, like they're usually ready to run a lot more quickly than they maybe would be if I was like overwhelming them, information overload those first few days.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Hopefully it does.
Yeah, it does. Do you get more distributors from host to post or messaging? I think that y'all don't message. I think you more of just attraction marketing, right?
Yeah, so my team is, we've never really done any messaging, and that's not to say we think there's anything wrong with messaging or anything like that. We just, the way we were trained from like our entire lineage of our uplines was just straight attraction marketing. But we do a lot of host to post. And I'm really big, like if like someone on my team maybe like feels like, okay, like I didn't have a lot of people comment on my host to post giveaway. What's a way I can get that spurred up? Like, well, I'll have them message for host to post. So I'll have them message like all their customers from last month and get them to host a post for them. One great tip is you can have someone host a post for you that is just the host to post giveaway, not like product or business. So then when people comment on it, you use their network to host more posts for you. Does that make sense? Like instead of getting their network to comment on like a hair, skin, nail post, their network is commenting on the target giveaway. Do you guys follow me?
Yeah.
So then it's like it's really effective for those people who like, for whatever reason, they're not getting a lot of interaction on their page. Like that is how they can get out of that and like really quickly get outside their network. So hopefully that makes sense.
What exactly is attraction marketing?
So attraction marketing basically just means that you're focusing really, really strongly on your brand and branding yourself on social media and attracting people to you. So like one little phrase you'll hear people say with attraction marketing is that like they strive to be the hunted, not the hunter. And so they want to put out such a strong presence on social media that people like are constantly drawn in. And what I always want to say, and I especially love to say this if I'm talking to a team that does more messaging, is that attraction marketing, it's not like, oh, you're just going to go put up a post and everyone's going to flock to you. That's not how it works. Like it takes a lot of work. It takes just as much work as messaging does, because you have to be super consistent to building your following, growing your network on Facebook, building your brand, taking really like pretty clear, good quality pictures, telling a story in all of your posts. One great book, if you're interested in learning more about attraction marketing, is The Power of Building a Story Brand. I think, Cheyenne, you've read it, or at least it's on your list to read. It's one that Pam Sauter recommended as well. And it's a 4-hour book. You can finish it like in 4 days. But basically the whole premise of the book is that like your post should tell a story, and your post should like really connect with your readers and show them a solution for their life, whether it's products or business. And so that's how I follow like my posts. Like if you go and you read my posts, you'll see that I'm always trying to get down on my audience's level. And then at the end, I'm trying to like inspire them enough to spur them to action towards me. And so it's something that takes work, and it's something that you have to build up trust with your audience. I always like to say this too, like when you start attraction marketing, you could be doing everything right, and you're not going to see people like flock to you the first 3 days, because you have to build up that rapport with your audience. And so that's why a lot of your leaders will train you to start messaging, because they want you to have those instant results. And so it's great to do attraction marketing, but I always like to say that, because I never want anyone to just hear that and be like, oh, I'm just going to go post exactly like she does, and this is going to be what happens. Because there's so much more work that goes into it behind the scenes than that.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of, we do message, and when I message, a lot of the times it's not ever producing immediate results. A lot of people don't even respond. But I think what's good about it is you can actually see your attraction marketing working, because you'll start posting and start talking about stuff, and here you have these people coming back to you, and they're like, oh, hey, like I've been seeing your stuff. And it's just kind of how you can see it working too, by messaging them, then not replying, watching you after you message them, like making that first entrance, and then, you're attracting them to you. So. And I used to think, I remember I followed Claire. If y'all don't know, she enrolled under Claire Flores. She went ambassador last year, which sounds weird to say. But I remember seeing her post, and I was like, she doesn't even look like she's in this business. Like, she doesn't even post about this stuff. Because I was like imagining like Jade's team, how there's like product posts everywhere and all this stuff. I was like, she doesn't even look like she's like in It Works. And then she goes ambassador, and I'm like, oh, okay. Just because she attracts such good people, because her posts are so good. She's like showing all of her family and her kids and like all of this. And I think that's really cool, because attraction marketing is really insane, because you just look at it and you're like, oh, they're not probably enrolling very much, and heck, they go ambassador. So I think it's so strong.
Yeah, I always like to tell people, like, it's a process like anything else. You have to have faith that if you're always planting seeds, you're always going to have a harvest to reap. But like Cheyenne said with messaging, like it is a process of planting seeds. Every post you put out there is a seed. Every time you grow your network, that's more seeds. But they all work synergistically together to give you the results that you want. So one other thing that I had written down that I wanted to share with you guys is just like, and this is, I read this on my graphic, like my 6 list that I do every day is self-development. And I'm sure that you guys hear over and over, like self-development. But in this season, like in my opinion, self-development should be dominating your schedule. Like it should be taking the bulk of your time, because you're only ever going to be as good as like what the thoughts that are going on in your mind. And so I was listening to Zig Ziglar, and he said something that I wrote down that I thought was so good. He said, you inevitably will always move towards the strongest impressions in your mind. And for any of you guys that are needing a new book, this is called Born to Win. Cami recommended it. It's by Zig Ziglar. It was the last book he wrote before he died. But anyways, he said, you inevitably will always move towards the strongest impressions in your mind. And so like what that means is like the thoughts that you're battling with, like it's important to get those in check. So if you're naturally a more negative person, like you need more self-development than anyone, because like you've got to get those thoughts in check, because you could be messaging all day, you could be posting all day, you could be doing all the right things, but what's going on up here will hold you back, because like your vibe, you hear people say your vibe attracts your tribe, like your energy is contagious, like it's so true. And so like whatever thoughts are going on up here is going to be like where you see your life shifting towards. And so get that in check now. And if like there's something not quite right going on in your mind, like there's no better time to fix it than right now. So get in like a good routine where it's self-development when you wake up in the morning, it's self-development when you're driving, self-development when you're doing your makeup. Like I literally have it on every chance I get, because I am only enrolling like to my potential when I'm doing self-development all the time. The month I went pres, I'm not even kidding. My husband will like vouch for this. I had self-development playing in her house 24/7. Like there was nothing on the TV but YouTube. It was just like Stephen Furtick all day long. And guys, that month I know 40 distributors and 60 customers. But that would have 100% not happened if I was not keeping my mind right. The devil was attacking hard that month. There was so many things happening left and right, but like I was able to stand strong against those attacks because of how diligent I was being on like strengthening my mind. And so that was transitioning into the last thing I wanted to close out with was when you're going for something big, whether it's diamond, whether it's double diamond, triple diamond, presidential diamond, ambassador, whatever, you're going to have attacks come. Like they're just going to come. It's just plain and simple, like the nature of the game. When you're doing something big, like the devil will try to attack you. He never attacks someone that's doing nothing. Still hybrid
because obviously you're gonna run out of. Okay, now unmute yourself again.
Oh, sorry guys. But the attacks will come, and that's why, like when you're going for something big, you're gonna see all the stuff happening, and you're like, what the heck? And that's why you notice the person that kind of sits back and does nothing. You don't ever hear like you don't see all this stuff happen to them because the devil only attacks the house he's scared is gonna come up against him. But if you are growing your mind every single day and you're diligently praying over your business and you're staying close to the Lord and you're just flooding your mind with truth, you're going to be able to handle those things as life throws them your way. But you won't be able to if you're not. And so if there's anything I can say, like no matter what promotion you're running with, like guard up your mind. He says that no weapons formed against you will prosper, but he never says the weapons won't actually come. They will form, but they won't prosper against you. But you will only remember that truth and cling to it if you've been in the word and you've been, doing what you need to do to like stand firm in that truth. So sorry, I'm not trying to preach at you guys, but if there's just anything I've had to learn, the hard way, it's that like my life will always be better. My promotion will be so much more solid if I'm doing that. So no matter how busy you are, no matter if you're messaging a million people and you're like, I don't have time, like I can't squeeze anything else. You can't. Like you have to squeeze it in and just let it just dominate your time.
Exactly. I feel like it's not a promotion month if everything doesn't feel like it's coming like crashing down on top of you. Like every single time I promoted, everything went wrong. But I think also too, not only if you're prepared with personal development, but you're prepared that it's going to happen. Like, it's inevitable, but you're literally just going to keep pushing through it, especially if you decide that you're promoting. So thank you so much for doing this. That was so good. I love all of your like quotes and stuff that just shows how strong your mind is from personal development. So thank you. I will record this and post it, and I'll send you the link so that you can share it with your team as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye.